Fantasy Draft, the only rake-free daily fantasy site, brings the heat again with a $100,000 guaranteed rake-free contest, the Hooters main event. This is the largest and only rake-free contest of its kind you'll find for Week 17. And remember, only on Fantasy Draft are 100% of the entry fees paid to contestant winners. Sign up at fantasydraft.com with referral code WBOZ, and you'll get a free 7-day trial membership.
Ironic Radio proudly presents Daily Fantasy Sports, Fantasy Foreplay, powered by DailyFantasyLines.com.
Play action. Minshew wide open for the touchdown.
Broncos jump. Free play for Rodgers. He knows where to go with it. For Valdez-Scantling. In the end zone. It's a Packer touchdown.
Jamal Agnew was benched a week ago in the win over the Chargers. But back in there today, a dangerous return man is Agnew, and he's across midfield, and he might take this one all the way. He will take it all the way. Jamal Agnew, 100 yards. No penalty flags on the field.
And the flea flicker. Carr has an open receiver, and it's J.J. Nelson. And Nelson is in for the score. Mahomes looking to throw it. He will. Delivers downfield. Catch made. McCall Hardman. Goodbye. A blur. Touchdown, Kansas City. On 4th and 5. Jones steps up. Takes off. He's in. Touchdown. Prescott to the end zone. Touchdown. It's another one for Amari Cooper. Baltimore Ravens on the move. Back to the bread and butter. Slashing is Ingram. Mark Ingram, a stiff arm, and he curls inside the pylon. Touchdown, Baltimore. Philip Lindsay, is he stopped? No! Touchdown, Broncos.
It was by Jimmy. That's picked off. They're going to come the other way, and this is Jamal Adams with a block and a pick six.
59 seconds to go. Kyle Allen over the middle. That one is complete. DJ Moore in for the touchdown. Gibson Klein travels to the 47. And Harris with a little wiggle. And there he goes. Deontay Harris going to take it the distance.
I don't believe what I just saw.
Welcome back to DFS Fantasy Foreplay on this Week 17. Joining me, as always, is Dan McClellan, Senior Staff Writer, ironicmedia.com, and my statistician, man, guru, Mr. Webboy. Gentlemen, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah. They're all kind of happening now as we're recording this, so happy Merry, and welcome to Week 17.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. I hope we do as well this week as we did last week and finish the season strong. It was personally my best week playing on Fantasy Draft, and I think the week before was my best week so far. So it's 2 weeks back-to-back. They've been very good.
Yeah, I would say as a whole, the Foreplay family over here, we kind of smashed it last week. Everything that we played, I think all three of us cashed everywhere. I particularly cashed on FanDuel and DraftKings, and Fantasy Draft was very kind to me last week as well, where they're usually not so kind to me. But, yeah, I'll take it and run, and we'll see where we're at with that. Webby, how did the parlays do and all that in our sports betting?
Parlays busted.
That's right. Thank you, Pittsburgh Steelers. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
You lost to the Jets. Oh, and I have to thank personally in my parlay that I played to be contrarian to your parlay. Thank you, Seattle Seahawks, for not being able to beat the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, that was torture.
Unfortunately, my payout was like a couple $100, and your payout was what, $13,000?
Yeah, $13,000, and the Steelers couldn't get the job done. I picked all of the 7 1:00 games: Indy over Carolina, Ravens over the Browns, Falcons over the Jaguars, Giants over the Redskins, Dolphins over the Bengals, Saints over the Titans, Steelers over the Jets. That didn't work out. Thank you. Pittsburgh.
Mike Tomlin and gang.
Yeah. The other parlay we ran was the Colts over the Panthers, Browns over the Ravens, Chiefs over the Bears, Saints over the Titans. Those all hit. Dallas over the Eagles, loser. Cincinnati Bengals over the Dolphins on the reverse side of it. Of course, that didn't pay out.
I did happen to cash out one of my season-long bets this past week. Thank you to my Green Bay Packers for being, division champs. I'll take that $165 on my $50 laydown for the season. I will take that to the bank. Thank you very much. That just added sweetness to the rest of the pie as the week went on.
The Green Bay game was a good game. We cashed out on that too. Had the money line and had the point spread, so that cashed out well over 200 and something bucks.
Yeah, and when we parted ways, you're like, I don't like this game anymore.
Yeah, lost on the over.
I lost the over on that. I took the over. I figured they'd come out slinging the ball in the second half, and
so did I.
I think I missed it by 4.
I don't remember what was the final.
I got it at 39.5.
Oh yeah, I took it at 46, so that was no good. The game was 33.
There's some couple interesting, in the sports betting world ideas this week of people who are consistently performing. Just speaking of the under, like Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, you bet the under, you win with something like 63% of the time.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of interesting things out there in regards to that. Dan, any luck on? I'm sure you played the Christmas Day NBA extravaganza. Did you
I did not hit that one. In fact, I could pull up my lineup, but most of my players went undervalued.
Wow. Well, speaking of undervalued players and all that, why don't we jump right into our whole boatload of fun that we like to do, and that's the Hot Mess Express.
That'd be the final one of the year.
No, well, we could technically do Hot Mess for our little playoff playing that we do.
Yeah, but most of the Hot Mess won't be playing in the next week.
Right.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, but we'll have our select few that we'll be able to pluck out and go, you're on the Hot Mess this week. And it might only be 1 or 2 from each position. Because one quarterback's going to outperform another quarterback in at least the wild card games. There's 8 of those, right?
Yes.
So there's 8 wild card games, 2 AFC, 2 NFC.
4 wild card games to 8 teams.
8 teams, 4 wild card games. So that will make up a very interesting Saturday-Sunday slate, and you will be able to most likely play a Saturday only and a Sunday only in DFS for that. And we should have some fun with the prize picks too that you're working on over there.
Yeah, those should come out. I would guess I'll do something this week, and definitely for as we get on to the following week, I think we'll get more into the prize picks. So, but the good news about this week is that after Sunday's games, we should have like all the information leading forward to the next week. So it gives us more time to prepare. This week was just a crazy week with Christmas in the middle of the week. Most teams took Christmas off. So writing a DFS article yesterday was like writing in a black hole. And I kind of put that, so look, this is where I'm at on a Thursday with limited information. And I'm not so sure by the time we get to Sunday that I wouldn't make dramatic changes to what I have, because I expect there's going to be a significant number of nuggets of information to come out between now, Friday morning we're recording, and Sunday when we actually play. I think this is it's actually a very hard DFS week because of the amount of options you have, and because of there's a lot of things you're just not sure about in terms of players, how much time they're going to play or not play.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that when we start building our lineup in the next few minutes. Just real quick, hot mess. I'd like to throw Aaron Rodgers and Mitch Trubisky for their extremely underwhelming performances on Monday Night Football last week. Aaron Rodgers was something like 9 points. Trubisky was like 7. Cousins was 7. Trubisky laid an egg in his loss as well. Running backs, Mike Boone, Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, Wide receivers, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen didn't even get a point. I think it was a 0.2 for Adam Thielen.
Yeah,
totally taken out of that game. I know I focused a lot on this Packer Minnesota game, but there was a lot of mess in that game. Other players that we can throw on there from Sunday: Hunter Henry, Darren Waller, both undervalued. Greg Olsen, both undervalued. And as Webby said prior to the show, your bust of the week, ladies and gentlemen, is Zach Ertz.
Yeah,
now, it's going to be very interesting. Just the whole Zach Ertz conversation is a very interesting conversation. So the Eagles have said they're going to bring him back next year. They're going to pay him and bring him back. It's going to be very interesting because Dallas Goedert, however you want to pronounce it, he's making a name for himself in Philadelphia, for sure.
Goedert, yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting next year where they're running lots like 12-man, 2 tight end sets and all that. And if they can get themselves a healthy backfield, they could definitely put themselves in a good position. I think they need to work on the O-line and find wide receivers that can manage to stay healthy, not take guys like Deshaun Jackson, who has a history of being injured, Alshon Jeffrey, history of being injured, Nelson Aguilar, young kid, second year, I believe, over the course of the past few years, he's missed considerable amount of games due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can get themselves some young, maybe early, I don't know how they're going to go about their draft, but I think next year, Philly, they're on the verge of making the playoffs. They hold their destiny. If they can make the playoffs and actually have a healthy team next year, I think they can make another run.
I have one more player to add to your Hot Mess Express.
Oh, bring it, please.
I have 2.
Okay. Anthony Miller had a great matchup, was constantly in optimizers last week. 1 reception for 2 yards. What I find particularly frustrating about it is I had it with a Trubisky Miller stack that combined for 9.5 points. But on this tournament that I played, I also played Steve Sims Jr. at 0% owned, who went off for 6 receptions for 64 yards, 2 TDs, 9 rushing yards, 25 points. And I had Philip Lindsay, who scored 22 points at 14% owned, but still, it was my one lineup that didn't cash because I had the Trubisky Miller stack.
Yeah. All of my Sunday stacks and all my Saturday stacks cashed, so it's it was definitely a weekend that if you played the chalk, you did well. If you tried to be contrarian, and I don't think the chalk necessarily was playing your Lamar Jacksons or your Tyler Lockett's on Sunday, or not Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, because he definitely busted. You can put him on the Hot Mess Express.
That's what I wanted to do. Throw him on there. I mean, 169 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and rushing for 2 yards against the Cardinals.
Yeah, 10.96 points. You can throw Phil Rivers on there, but I think I think we should be giving him a car at this point.
Yeah, no, he's got his own car, and he's the one introducing Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott to this week's Hot Mess Express quarterback car.
Oh, yeah, I would have to agree to that.
I mean, Dak Prescott looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, 265 yards, not sure how he managed that.
Garbage time when they were playing all cover defense. And...
I mean, he overthrew and underthrew. I mean, there was also a lot of drop balls in that game, but Dak Prescott looked horrible, and it makes you wonder what this week's game will be like for a team that desperately needs that win.
Well, they could be out of it. If the Eagles win, if the Eagles beat the Giants, they're done. They're cooked. And that'll be the end of whoever their head coach is. I can't even remember his name. All I know is he's got Jerry Jones' hand up his ass.
He should have been fired last week immediately at halftime. Fired.
That'd be something Jerry Jones would do, too, to be completely honest with you.
And they want to give this guy, a contract extension? Come on now.
No, they're not going to. He's out. He's out come the end of the season. Anybody else? Anybody wants to care to add to this wonderful, illustrious list that we you want to throw Hunter Henry? I think I already threw him on there.
It's tough. Game script wasn't there for him. It's tough.
Oh, the Chargers suck.
Well, yeah, they are horrible. I mean, like I said, Phillip Rivers.
I mean, Zach Ertz might be a bust, but didn't Zach Ertz also go out of that game like twice injured?
Yeah, I know he hit the tent once or twice.
Alrighty, jumping into this week. We can start going through the build. It's a very interesting week, and here's why. You have teams that have already come out and said, we're resting our players, a la Baltimore. So there is no Lamar Jackson. That brings in RG3.
He's hurt.
Well, he's hurt, but he wasn't going to play anyway.
Right.
None of their starters were playing. Baltimore's already come out and said, we're resting our starters.
Yep.
You have New England, who really has nothing to play for, and you don't know what Bill Belichick's going to do. A couple of years ago, he's like, I'm playing my people, and I think what did he do? He rested Moss and played Welker, and Welker blew his ACL in that game. So it's a very hit or miss type deal when it comes to what can you believe out of these coaches that actually have nothing to play for.
Are you sure the Patriots have nothing to play for? There isn't a scenario for a first round?
They have nothing to play for.
Okay. Well, there goes my Julian Edelman that I was.
Well, no, Julian Edelman I think is still a hot play, but I don't know how much he's going to play. You know he's going to get the receptions if they play even a half. But is that half enough to justify putting him in your line?
No, not. You want somebody who's going to, yeah.
Just like Houston. Does Houston really have anything to play for? Can they move up? They're the 4 seed.
No, I don't. That's,
But you have Tennessee, who's on the outside looking in, has something to play for. So does Houston lay down? And Deshaun Watson, who's a bit banged up himself, may or may not play. Do you go on the other side and take Tannehill, who they have something to play for? He's going to play the whole game, and he's going to be slinging the ball. So does it bring an A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill stack into play? Does Henry play? He rested last week. Does he play this week? Carson Wentz, he's another guy. Going to play the whole game. They need the win.
The only thing left for New England is the first round bye.
But that's huge.
Yeah.
So
I thought they had that already because they locked the division up.
Nope. They need a win or a tie or a Kansas City loss or a tie, and they clinched a first round bye.
So that's where I think, I actually think the Tom Brady Edelman stack is very intriguing.
You're willing to pay 11-3 for Tom Brady, who's historically only performed all season?
Yeah, 17 points a week. I mean, it's against, Miami. I was just saying if you want to do something that's, look what that Cincinnati did with last week with Dalton and John Ross and Tyler Boyd. I mean, you did a similar stack. It would be very, very contrarian where you would have, Edelman and Brady and N'Keal Harry. I think that would be, cheap enough to be able to get in some other players. It's just it's a thought that crossed my mind this week.
I'm not objectionable to it. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the whole game idea. Like anything in the NFC, I think is on the table. The Packers are playing for a first round bye.
The Vikings I'd avoid them. They have nothing to play for.
Vikings have nothing to play for. They can't move. You got Seattle versus San Fran. That game determines who takes that division.
And the Green Bay, Detroit, and the Niners. Who are the Niners playing?
Seattle,
and the Saints Carolina game is huge implications across the board for first round buys, moving up spots. It's just, Packers need a win or a New Orleans loss.
New Orleans needs a lot of help, don't they?
No, they need Green Bay to lose, which is going to happen. And
you think Green Bay is going to lose to Detroit?
I'm sorry, San Francisco.
I'm sorry.
San Francisco is going to lose that game. And then the Saints can leapfrog back up. If Green Bay loses and San Francisco loses, then the Saints move up to number 1 and get home field throughout. So those 3 games are just huge for the
So
Everybody's seeding.
if Seattle wins, the Niners lose, Green Bay wins, Green Bay gets home field throughout, and the number one.
Green Bay win and a San Francisco loss or a tie. Or a Green Bay tie and a San Fran loss and a New Orleans loss gives them home field advantage throughout. They clinch a first
Think
round.
about all those teams that need to go into Lambeau in fucking January to play football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Green Bay clinches a first round bye with a win and a loss by the Saints. Well, a win or a loss, or a tie and a San Fran loss, or a Green Bay tie and a New Orleans tie, which is never going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah. Can't factor all of that in when building a DFS lineup. But I think you can factor a little bit of, would there be some scoreboard watching going on? Like the Saints, all they need to do is win, or all they need to do is have the Green Bay, lose. So I don't. There could be a scenario.
Are those games on at the same time?
Yes.
The NFL got very smart this year. So one example is NFC Championship is being determined between the Eagles and the Cowboys. They both play at 4:00.
Yes.
So there's no scoreboard watching that can happen. They have to go out and play. Obviously, the coaches may be doing some scoreboard watching if, the Cowboys are getting blown out by the Redskins and the Eagles are blowing out the Giants. Eagles may start resting guys because they've got it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be some of that. If Green Bay and New Orleans are playing at the same time, there may be some scoreboard watching going on there. No one's watching the San Fran-Seattle game. That is the final game of the regular season at 8:20 tomorrow night. Or Sunday night.
Yes, flexed.
So why don't we dive into this? I'm going to throw out a couple names that we haven't talked about that are probably relatively cheap. I want to throw out there Drew Lock from Denver going up against Oakland. And I want to throw out there, even though they have they have nothing to play for, but they could very much play spoiler, and that's Case Keenum going up against Dallas.
My biggest concern about the Case Keenum Dallas is that I'm not so sure that game is going to be that high scoring. I think they're going to put the ball in Ezekiel Elliott's hands. I think he should have a fine day. But I don't see Dallas racking up, 30 to 35 points and, being able to I don't see the back and forth nature for any one quarterback there to have a great day.
And you're right, Panthers. Saquon Barkley should have a great day. I mean, Redskins defense versus running backs is fourth worst in the league.
You
mean Elliott?
Ezekiel Elliott. Sorry, yeah. That's the fourth worst in the league.
Yeah, they've allowed 34 points to each of the last three running backs they played: Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, and Saquon Barkley. So
they've averaged 22 over the entire season. Yeah.
Yeah, so Elliott's in a smash spot, I think, and I really think because Prescott's struggling there, that I think they just give him a rock. I mean, that's and the coach arguably has his job on the line there as well.
All right, so I pulled up the lineup screen here so we can start building, and based on the conversations we're having, I've already plugged in Ezekiel Elliott.
See, and that's what makes it tough, because how do you not plug in Christian McCaffrey this week with everything he needs and everything he wants and what
New Orleans run defense is why.
Yeah, but he's going to get the 69 yards he needs, and that's going to mean 2 touchdowns.
I'm not sure that means 2 touchdowns. I don't.
He got no touchdowns last week.
Yeah, he might have 15 catches.
He had 15 receptions for 119 yards, but
I don't think it's the receptions that matter. It's the yards. He needs 69, I believe it is, to be the third player in the history to go 1,000 back-to-back 3 times. I think that's the numbers, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to look and see what his numbers are, but
so here's the thing with CMC. plugging him in really constrains you, and you're going to need to give up in a lot of places. And now you're really throwing daggers. Like you pre-show when we were all bullshitting, you talked about Gus Edwards. To me, Gus Edwards is a giant question mark. I think Justice Hill is going to get more touches because they want to see what the kid can do. They're playing for absolutely nothing. They've already locked in first round bye and home field throughout. They literally have nothing. They could go say, well, let's see who we want to bring on our postseason roster. So Gus Edwards is an integral part of that offense, spelling Mark Ingram, and they may need Edwards next week if Ingram's not healthy with a calf strain. So the odds of him, it just, in my opinion, throws in a few variables that I don't necessarily think I want to put into a lineup by rostering someone like a Gus Edwards to save money.
Weren't you looking for the diamonds in the rough? That gives you the perfect opportunity to find those diamonds in the rough by taking those.
But I think you can build. A very solid lineup without going super cheap.
I also think that, as I mentioned earlier, that we're recording on a Friday and we're trying to build the best lineup Friday morning. As I said, I think there's going to be a number of nuggets of information to come out between now and Sunday, and there might be some cheap running back that's in a smash spot because they're getting a start. That all of a sudden, okay, you plug them in and then you can afford McCaffrey, but that information isn't out there yet. So yeah.
I mean, on the opposite side of the CMC conversation, Alvin Kamara had the best game of the season last week. Yep. Would it be chasing points to go after him this week?
See, I think the better choice there at 600 cheaper would be Nick Chubb, who's also about to bust records.
And Aaron Jones is about to break records too. I think he needs one receiving touchdown and another rushing touchdown, and he's in the same class as CMC for some running back record.
Yeah, I mean, all three of those are in smash spots. The thing about Kamara is that the Panthers have allowed 25 rushing TDs this year, which is 9 more than any other team. I mean, it's like facing the Cardinals and playing a tight end. The thing is, Kamara got his first 2 rushing touchdowns last week since week 3.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you go with, in the lineup I built for the article, I ended up going with his teammate instead because he's $10,000, and I thought, I thought maybe there's a chance that Latavius Murray has a big game here while everybody is playing, Kamara. But I with that said, I like the appeal of the Kamara play, and especially him as a pass catcher. So, but the other thing about is the Panthers have allowed the least receiving yards to running backs all season. It's about 350, and that's where Kamara typically, makes his bread and butter is as a pass catcher. So you really, where it's the pure running back that has thrived against the Panthers, and that's where I think Latavius Murray may have a better day than Kamara.
That's a good point. You're right. I mean, the receiving yardage, although it's not tremendous, he is really good out of that backfield.
On the opposite side of that, what about Derrick Henry? He's also in a smash spot.
And he's not on the injured report. So
Nope.
But do you trust it? That's the
Nope.
thing. That's the.
My personal lineup, I told you all before we logged in to do this show. I'm in the Green Bay game against Detroit. Kerryon Johnson's where I'm getting my value at 9,800.
Derrick Henry's an obvious choice too, though. He's going to get that workload until his leg falls off.
8,800 is Kerryon Johnson getting a start against Green Bay, who has given up a shit ton of yards on the ground all season.
Right. I think that's a great value play. And he's in my article because I don't expect him to put up 30 points, but at 8,800, I think the other thing you have to look at is he was coming off of an injury after missing 7 or 8 weeks, and he got about 14 touches. Well, he came out of that healthy, and now he's in a great situation. There's no reason for him not to get, in the final game of the season, for him to get 20-plus touches against Green Bay.
I have him in my lineups also. I like the Kerryon Johnson move. He should double his value. that would be a good call for him in that game. I think the matchups are there for it.
So are we in agreement? So we want to plug in Kerryon Johnson?
All right, I got him plugged in.
Yeah,
I think that's just going to open it up to be able to play some other plays that we want to play.
Yeah.
Let's take care of a QB here.
That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been. The way I look at it is we should play a quarterback that has something to play for. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, they're playing for nothing. That kind of takes me off of Winston and Matt Ryan. If you want to play Winston, you know he's going to sling it. You know he's going to chuck it. The same could be said about Fitzpatrick, but they're going up against New England. Ryan Tannehill, we mentioned at the top of the show. Carson Wentz, we mentioned at the top of the show. I mentioned Aaron Rodgers. I'm not on the Watson train at all. I'm not really on Drew Brees, but Drew Brees could have a great game. Again, there is the narrative of Drew Brees at home versus Drew Brees on the road. I don't know. If it were me, I would look at Tannehill, Rodgers, or go down and pay down for a Wentz. Danny brought up Brady. Webby, you brought up Robert Griffin.
Well, Rodgers is $300 cheaper, and he is in a much better matchup against Detroit than Breeze is against. You mentioned Brady. I thought you said Breeze.
Brady. I said Breeze, but I'm not on Breeze. That narrative home away splits just scare me.
Look,
even though he did it last week against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Rodgers is certainly the safer play. Well, over the last 3 weeks, Rodgers hasn't reached 15 fantasy points.
Yeah. Where is?
Well, he is playing. He is playing in the Detroit, whatever the dome they call that.
But let's see he's faced the last week. Minnesota, pretty difficult. Chicago, pretty difficult. Washington should have been easy. He got 12 points. But the week before that, he got 28 against the Giants. That could be a similar matchup as he's facing this week against Detroit. But, I mean, he's only had one good game out of the last 7.
What about Jared Goff?
Well, I'm already playing him.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying he's poised in probably the best matchup there is against the Cardinals, who are the worst.
Absolutely.
Against quarterbacks, giving up, 22 to 24 points a game?
I have the Goff Cup Higbee stack because, well, Higbee's has 4 games in a row where he has over 100 yards and a TD in each game, and he's
that's
defense. And then you have Cup, who's facing a cornerback who's allowed over 2 fantasy points per target. So
I'm kind of on the Higbee train. I'm backing on that narrative of play the tight end against Arizona, and you have a competent quarterback in Jared Goff, obviously depending on the week.
I really like Goff. He's just like, I kind of want to. I have him in the article and would like to maybe do something a little different here on the podcast because I also have Elliott and Johnson. So if we go Goff, I'm like, we're basically just duplicating my article, which makes me feel good that I maybe was on the right track.
I just think that's one of the smarter play quarterbacks this week. I mean, I also like the Fitzpatrick move against New England. I don't care. The guy's got everything to play for and something to prove.
Does he though?
Yeah, he does.
Why? They're going to go and draft the quarterback in the draft.
Exactly.
But the matchup is horrible for him there.
It could be.
I'd rather go down the road if we're going to do that. Save some cash and play like a Drew Lock against Oakland, or
I don't hate that move at all.
Or Sam Darnold against Buffalo. Buffalo is another team that has nothing to play for, and they end up resting their starters.
They are sitting everyone. That's already confirmed. They're sitting everyone.
All right, so you have Sam Darnold probably in a great matchup at this point.
Sure, the Jets win that game. You can bet that on your FanDuel, DraftKings, wherever your cash sports books. It's a 1-point game now because of all that info that came out.
I mean, there is something to consider here is that the Raiders do have a playoffs scenario. I think
they do.
And it is a divisional game. It is in Denver. So you got to think that the Broncos would like to,
Play spoiler.
Yeah. And I think there's, lock somebody that you could have at maybe 3% ownership.
Oakland.
He hasn't done much in the last couple of weeks, but neither is Aaron. But against Houston, he had 28 points a couple of weeks ago. Houston's probably very similar to the Raiders in terms of a defense.
Oakland's road to the playoffs is a tough one, but certainly doable. They need to win. They need Pittsburgh to lose. They need Tennessee to lose. And they need Indy to win.
Fathomable. It's a parlay.
It's the Indy win there that really throws the works in it because, Pittsburgh can definitely lose and Tennessee can definitely lose. It's that Indy game. And if all that happens, Oakland clinches the only way they get in. They clinch the strength of victory tiebreaker over Pittsburgh.
I don't know. I could get convinced. I'm not convinced in Drew Lock, but if we were to play him, I'm not hating that play.
Now, for them to clinch that strength of victory tiebreaker, the Bears, the Lions, the Chargers, or New England, one of those teams must lose.
Any thought of Kyle Allen at the minimum of 10,000 against New Orleans?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Kyle Allen.
No, that's right.
I think it's going to be Will Greer.
That's right. Forgot about that.
No. Yes, but no. If you want to punt it at 0% ownership and min salary QB of 10K, I could be talked into it, but I don't think that's smart. I think New Orleans secondary, now that you have Janoris Jenkins and no, I can't.
Swillinger. Who else? They just picked up 2 more guys today as Antonio Brown was working out.
Antonio Brown, if he is signed with any team, is going to be put on the exempt list. End of subject.
That's what everybody says.
Out of all of these kind of cheaper guys I like, I like Tannehill.
I do too. I think I'm kind of in that spot.
I'm looking at, on these other quarterbacks I've pulled up, and it's like, oh, they had a really good week against Houston. Oh, they had a really good week against Houston. And then you look at what Tannehill's done over the last 3 weeks, including playing Houston, where he scored 25 points again just a few weeks ago. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And in that conversation, at $200 more is Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
So, there's 2 ways to look at that. I think the Tannehill play is probably a better play than the Rodgers play, just considering point totals that we've looked at week over week. And, it's been weeks since Rodgers has had a smash hit, and Detroit could definitely come out and try and play spoiler. They almost beat Green Bay. They should have beaten Green Bay in their first meeting if it wasn't for hands to the face penalties that weren't hands to the face penalties on the defense that were converted to touchdowns. Detroit would have won that game.
All right, if we go with Tannehill, let me find so Woolerich's matchup article isn't up yet, so I have to go to last week's and then kind of do them, who's matched up against the left wide receiver and do all of that.
I think A.J. Brown is in a good spot.
Okay, I'll just double check that.
A.J. Brown averaging 26.76 fantasy points per game. He's returning 2 to 4-time average through those games. He's facing a Texans defense on the road that ranks 26th in DVOA. Is it allowed 37.4 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers this season, which ranks 21st. Titans rank 3rd in the league in success percentage when targeting their wide receivers, succeeding in 57.74% of their plays. And they are a 3.5-point favorite with an implied total of 24.5 points.
Okay, so Brown is the left wide receiver. Let's just see who, based on last week.
I have him this week at Garyon Connolly.
I have based on last week, I have Bradley Robley, but Connolly isn't even on that. I mean, it's the same matchup apparently that Rashad Perriman had last week, and Perriman had a decent game. I mean, it's not the best matchup against Houston is to go against Hargraves with the slot receiver.
And who's that? Is that Tajay Sharp?
Adam Humphries, which I don't know if that's what you want. No.
No. I mean, it's contrarian enough to give you that differentiator, but I'm willing to pay 13.3 if you want to go that stack.
I don't hate that. I mean, it's
Webby, AJ Brown.
I don't mind that.
All right, another wide receiver. We need to save some cash here, I think, just to give us some flexibility. I already told you guys I'm playing Steven Sims. He's 9.2K. You got John Ross. I'm also playing him in the Cincy matchup. He's 8.8K. I mean, if you didn't want to play A.J. Brown, you could go down the road of Corey Davis at 7.8K.
What about DJ Shark?
I like DJ Shark. Is he healthy? He didn't play last week because of injury. And it wasn't illness, it was injury.
It's questionable.
Yeah.
Great matchup.
They have nothing to play for. They have nothing to play for. He's even a monicum of like 50-50. What side of 50-50 is that? Not playing?
Yeah.
I mean, what about Golden Tate against Philly? That's contrarian.
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, he's on my list too. Randall Cobb against Washington.
Yep. After last week's performance.
Well, could this be the week of our favorite hot mess, Amari Cooper?
He's got. It's interesting you say this. Is Tate actually has the same matchup that Randall Cobb had last week, and it's not a good one.
Jarvis Landry against Cincy. I'm trying not to go with high price guys.
Okay. Who's the Packers left wide receiver?
It's either Kevin King or Jari Alexander. Or Williams. Williams covers the slot.
Okay.
So it's either King or Jari Alexander. If it's Jari Alexander, he's a rookie, but he's rookie or second year, but he's definitely shown some great talent.
He'll be matched up on Chris Harris, who's allowed 2.2 fantasy points per target and a 60% catch rate. So, I mean, that was a game that we were looking at as having some meaning there. For
left wide receiver, not left cornerback guy. That's Devontae Adams.
That's paying up
at 14.9. Yeah, and that's the only wide receiver you can take off that team. It's like the Saints. Everyone else is trash.
Yeah, and if you really wanted to pay up...
Actually, that could be Lazard. Lazard had a decent game last week.
He's questionable.
He caught all of his opportunities. Devontae Adams is the one who had the hands of stone last week.
Yeah, they show Adams as the left wide receiver and Lazard is the right.
Yeah, and Adams, according to this, is going up against Slay.
Yeah.
So Lazard would be the play there if he's healthy. Again, question.
He has to get through practice today to drop the injury designation.
I like the Randall Cobb play. I think Webby might be onto something right there. I just my concern is is his floor below value?
Well, that is an issue now, isn't it? And what's his floor? 10?
No, I'd say his floor is around 6, 5.5, 6. If you're saying floor 5.57, ceiling 14.8.
I mean, who knows? He can have one of those days against Detroit where he goes off for 24.
No, Cobb is playing Washington.
Mm-hmm. He could have one of those days where he goes off for 24. It's Washington.
I'm playing team total of 28.25. 45.5 is the over-under. DJ Chark, Watson.
He's.
I like the Sims Jr. I think there's camaraderie there, and with the health of Terry McLaurin up in the air.
Well, he's got a ton of targets over the last few. I played him because the matchup was fantastic last week, and he was getting the targets.
Someone else you mentioned, Dan, N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, that's I think that's a very sneaky play because I think he's got the same matchup as Ross did last week.
He's just so touchdown dependent. He's not like a possession receiver. I mean, the one thing that I'm reading here is, Harry may see another healthy dose of opportunities if Edelman or Sanu need extra time to recover from their nagging injuries before the postseason. Harry faces a Dolphins defense that ranks last in pass DVOA and has allowed the second most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers this season at 43.
And he's going against a cornerback who's played like in 2 games. Nate Brooks. So that's why last week I was on
it's
John
a
Ross.
flyer. It's contrarian. I would say he's probably going to be 0% owned or sub 5% at least.
I think it's 1 if you're lucky. It's
Webby, opinion?
I don't know. It's tough here on this last spot. I mean, there's so many names you could throw out there that could have good days.
Well, we still have 2 flex spots, too.
Uh-huh.
Right now, we're just talking wide receiver.
I know. I mean, there's just a lot of names that it's hard to not look at.
The other thing I like about this is you still have Edelman that he's limited. I mean, I'm sure that Edelman's going to play, but I don't think he's 100% healthy. And this is a game where this Patriots have a chance to lock up home field, or at least a first-round bye.
They're all going to play. That's the thing. It's just a matter of they're 15.5-point favorites. So the real question is, how much do they play? If they're up by, 30-7 at the end of the first half, is Belichick going to be like, all right, Edelman, you're done for the day. Go out there, kid.
That could be the issue.
These are the games that worry me. Like, yes, they have something to play for home field, but they're playing Miami. Miami could show up and want to play spoiler, and it could be the Ryan Fitzpatrick, Devontae Parker game. But I think if Belichick's going to do one thing, and he does it every week, he picks something to take away and be beaten by something else. So maybe they take Parker out of the game and it becomes a Gesicki game. Where do you go with that? And now you're playing chess.
Yeah. One other name I'll throw is like a cheap wide receiver option is Jarius Wright who's being covered by PJ Williams. But, I mean, that's a touchdown-dependent play. And he hasn't got one this year.
It's no more touchdown-dependent than Deontay Johnson, Justin Watson, those guys in the, Justin Watson versus Atlanta from Tampa Bay and Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh, which who knows what quarterback is going to play this game. Is it going to be Mason Rudolph or is it going to be whoever their rookie is that got benched? I mean, their whole entire quarterback core is banged up in some way, shape, or form.
We're looking for value here in this spot.
There's three names that each of us threw out that I like. I like the Randall Cobb play. I like the N'Keal Harry play, and I kind of like the Steve Sims play. Give me another name.
Steve Sims, the Cobb, yes. John Ross III.
I threw him out before.
Yeah, those are the three value play moves that I like.
Let's look at Steve Sims' matchup because he did well for me last week. He is the slot wide receiver, and he's going up against Washington is playing
the Giants. Or no, Cowboys.
Cowboys.
All right, and the Dallas slot corner is
Jordan Lewis.
Yep.
It's a reasonable plus matchup.
It's a reasonable matchup. It's not something that jumps off the page, but what I certainly like is what of the names that you mentioned, I like the number of targets that he is getting.
Well, where's Trey Quinn? Is he out of concussion protocol? Because that's who he replaced in the slot.
I don't think they're going to take him out at this point.
I mean, it's only really been 2 weeks for Sims. I mean,
okay, in the last 2 weeks, he's had 21 targets.
Yeah.
And he's 9-2. I like that play. I mean, he scored 25 and 15 points. I mean, he has a very good chance for a 2x return there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this is a rivalry game, and I think the Redskins would love to keep the Cowboys, in check here.
All right, I'll put Sims in.
All right. I'm okay with that.
Tight end conversation. I already told you guys earlier, I'm kind of going back to the well against Arizona, and that's going to Higbee. I'm open to some other conversation, open to other ideas. I can throw out a few names myself. Let's see here. If you want to pay up, you can go to Kelsey. You could go to Dallas Goedert. That's a must-win spot. Goedert 10-2, Kelsey 13-6. O.J. Howard, nothing to play for, but beating Atlanta 8-1. Noah Fant 7.5K.
O.J. Howard's a bust. Just way better.
Cameron Brate's on this list too at 6.3.
Dallas Goedert if you wanted to go cheap because Ertz is unlikely to play.
Well, Goedert's not cheap at 10K.
10-2.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith against Houston.
I don't know. I think it's just when I look what Higbee's done over the last 4 weeks, I mean, he's liable to get 15 targets in this game. Each of the last 4 weeks, he's been over 20 points.
And I mean,
he played, and the best one was against Arizona 4 weeks ago, where he had 7 catches for 170 yards at TD.
And Higbee's 12.1K.
I mean, he's expensive, but he's in the range of I think he's going to get more targets than wide receivers in his range.
They really don't have anybody else. Jared Cook and Higbee.
And but here's the thing: how many people do you think are going to be on Higbee?
At 10-6, I still like Jared Cook.
I mean, if I'm paying 12-1 for Higbee, a pivot playoff that would be go get Kittle against Seattle, who's just as terrible at covering tight ends.
Well, let's finish this out, and if we could afford it, I don't mind that pivot at all.
I know, Webby, you just brought up Jared Cook.
I mean, Austin Hooper at 10-9 deserves consideration against Tampa Bay.
Hunter Henry against KC also does, too, at 8,400. Noah Fant against Oakland at 7,500.
Bust. His name's been mentioned once, and everybody's jumped on it.
Yeah, it might be the week to play him because he's not going to have no ownership.
Well, then you'll get your 3 to 7 points.
I mean, look, I just have a hard time getting off of Higbee just because of the number of targets in the matchup.
All right, I'll put him in. I will put him in.
I think you can overthink that.
All right, let's go down to defense here and knock that out. I kind of like the Green Bay defense, smash spot going up against the rookie.
I do. I like. There's two
QB.
defenses I like is Green Bay, and I like Pittsburgh against Baltimore's backups.
I like Pittsburgh too. Pittsburgh Patriots are top priced at 7,200. Let's see
Pittsburgh's
here. Green Bay's
55.
5,600. Pittsburgh's 55. What do you all think?
It's a coin flip for me.
Yeah. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, too. But they're just so unreliable, although they have one of the best matchups.
They average no points, though.
I know, but they have one of the best matchups going up against Cleveland. But then Cleveland's got a lot to play for in that game. Some records to be broken all over the place for them for the first time.
Well, I'm playing Green Bay in the article. Can we throw Pittsburgh in here?
Sure.
Okay.
Any opposition?
No, I'm good with that.
All right, that leaves us 11.5 for each of our flex spots.
So what other running backs do you like?
I like Eckler's spot too against KC.
I like Eckler.
Kenyon Drake against
Rams.
Rams.
I mean, if you're talking running backs.
But she's at the 15 range.
Yes,
What do we
she
like
is.
that's in like the, 12, 13 range?
Austin Eckler.
Yeah. Okay.
12-3. I like the Aaron Jones move at, let's see. He's got something to play for. He's 14-9 now. Kareem Hunt might not be a bad idea.
All right. What's that?
Kareem Hunt, he's 10-2.
I don't know. I heard a name mentioned before, and I keep looking back at it, and maybe Dan, you could be right with Latavius Murray. I mean, Carolina's,
I think that's going to be. I think that still goes Kamara's way.
Well, let's see. If we put Hunt in here, that leaves 12-9 to get somebody that's pretty. You can still play Kittle.
See, the reason why I keep going back to Aaron Jones is Jamal Williams is out in concussion protocol.
Yep.
Aaron Jones touched the ball 25 times last week, scored 2 touchdowns for the second straight game. He's up to 19 total touchdowns on the season. Jamal Williams hasn't practiced. So Jones could be in for another 20-touch game. In a good matchup as the Lions have allowed the third most fantasy points to running backs.
Okay, so if we were to go Aaron Jones, and I actually think that is a great call. Now he's
going to split his time, though. I will say that. With Williams.
Williams hasn't practiced all week. He's not going to play.
So then that leaves you 8,200 left, and you've got Jarius Wright up against P.J. Williams in New Orleans. There's the one guy in a GPP at 0% ownership. I mean, his floor is nothing, but his upside could be 20-something in this game.
I said Dexter Williams, Ren, not Jamal.
I don't think he's going to see the field that much other than to spell Aaron Jones. Don't forget, Aaron Jones has records to play for, too.
Yeah, I know that. It was your coach who said yesterday that he's going to get the ball.
Who, Dexter Williams?
Yep. So, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, is that just more BS?
No, I think there's validity to it. I mean, Green Bay's in the playoffs. Do they really care about... So I've been having this kind of inner brain confrontation with myself about, is it good to get that bye week?
Yes.
Or is it good just to play straight through, where you get the momentum, you roll the momentum, and you've got it? Like Baltimore is got the first round bye. They have home field advantage, and none of their play, and they're resting all their starters, which means at this point in
2
time,
weeks off.
3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Essentially. 3 full weeks off with no football. You might as well go back to preseason in the summer.
For some teams, it's fine. For other teams, it's not. I mean, the Saints historically have been horrible on a bye week.
Green Bay too. That's
Green
where
Bay.
that's where this whole idea in my head came from. Is, is the bye week really that good for some? I mean, if you got a lot of injuries, like a system like the Belichick-Brady system, where it's the system is the system, and we go out and we do the same thing every time, except when we don't. Well, when don't you do that? We do the same thing every single time.
I was going to say, ask the Patriots how the bye week works. They've got 6 championships off of the bye week.
So is it what news you hear about Dexter Williams?
He's going to carry some of the load with Jamal being out. You're going into the playoffs. I don't think you're going to see Aaron Jones touch that ball 30 times.
No, but I'd say he.
That is a so let's just throw him in there, because that's an interesting.
Who, Dexter Williams or Aaron Jones?
Dexter Williams. Just see what we have left.
Oh, I'm not saying to play him. I'm just saying he's definitely going to eat into some of Aaron Jones' carrying time there. There's no doubt. I mean, even the coach came out and said it. Oh, we're going to give him the ball more. That Jamal, that was yesterday. Now, of course, things could change.
Would you give him goal line touches because you're trying to protect Aaron Jones?
I don't know the playbook of that team well enough. Me personally, yep, I would, especially on 2nd and 2, where Green Bay likes to run the ball. I don't know about goal line.
Let me throw out this idea to you.
Yeah.
Cheap. Probably going to be handed the rock a lot because they just need to win the game. They don't need to do anything, and this is going back into the trying to figure out the brain and mentality of Belichick. What about Sony Michel at 9.7?
That's a very good. I mean,
probably
yes.
Going to get more of the carries over White.
I mean, if they're just going to ground and pound it and throw when they need to get a first down, I mean,
if we're looking at these numbers and
it's against Miami.
What about Mostert?
So this is what Tiger
again
did
going
DFS.
into the playoffs.
It's a playoff implication game. Nobody's sitting in the San Fran Seattle game.
Okay, Michelle's had 40 carries over the last 2 weeks.
What's his numbers over the last 2 weeks?
21 attempts for 98 yards, averaging 4.6. He had 1 reception for 5 yards. That was against Buffalo in a win. Week 15, Cincinnati, 19 carries, 89 yards, 4.7 average, 1 carry for 14 and a fumble.
So he has a really good chance to get over 100 yards against. So if he gets 100 yards at a TD, that's 20 points. Against Miami, I think that's a coin flip that he could do it.
You got to figure Miami is most likely going to be blown out by halftime. And it'll be a run game. Edelman will probably sit for the second half.
Yeah, the Sonny Michel play is making a lot of sense to me.
Okay, $200 cheaper is Damian Williams against the Chargers. Dual threat PPR.
Well, and you do attack the Chargers via the ground, not the air, so that also makes sense to me.
And he's 9.5K.
And it's probably going to...
Again, do they have much to play for?
I mean, he did see a lot of work last week in a blowout.
And if they don't have a lot to...
I mean, if they don't have a lot to play for, who are you sticking out there? Thompson?
Possibly.
I mean, who are the backup wide receivers in New England?
Oh, depth chart.
You got James White, Rex Burkhead, Sony Michel, Brandon Bolden, Damian Harris.
You know, I actually think Sony Michel is a better matchup. I mean, I think they both are fine plays. I think you know that New England has something to play for, whereas KC, you're just not so sure. But is there anybody that's 13-6 that we want as opposed to 13-4? Oh, okay. Here's something interesting. So let's say you go Damian Williams. You could get Brashad Perryman for 13-6.
That's kind of appetizing right there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Hey, you could also get Travis Kelce at 13-6. How much is Henry? He's up there. 15-3.
Yeah.
You know, I think I could be good with.
Darian Williams and Brashad Perriman?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's contrarian enough. I mean, this whole lineup is not chalky at all, so. The only chalky play I see is probably Kerryon Johnson, Elliott. And there's no real game stack. I mean, we did game stack a little bit, the Steve Sims Jr., Ezekiel Elliott.
I mean, Higbee would be popular, but I'm not sure people are going to pay up. That's
not when you have a Jack Doyle down as low as he is going up against the Jags, who's probably going to see his fair share in a must-win.
All right, let's run this down one more time. Ryan Tannehill, Ezekiel Elliott, Kerryon Johnson, A.J. Brown, Steve Sims Jr. I think between Brown and Sims, there's over 20 targets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you add in Higbee, I think that's another 15. And you got Damian Williams against the Chargers' poor run defense. And Brashad Perriman, if Wentz is going to try to throw for 400 yards, Perriman's going to get over 100 of it. And you got the Steelers going against the Ravens, who are resting everybody.
All right, how about this? Just to throw a kink in the works, at 12-9, you could put in Kittle against Seattle.
Instead of Perriman, but then you go off of Williams to what, something in the 10 range?
I don't know if you have the money. I haven't locked it in, but I mean, I can. Perriman, Kittle at 10-2. That leaves you Kareem Hunt, Jamison Crowder, Montgomery, Dallas Goedert. 3 tight end set. Anyone? Golden Tate at 10-1.
No, I think I like it as it is with Williams and Perriman.
Web opinion?
LaShawn McCoy's not playing in that game, right? He's still hurt?
Yep. Hey, look, Damian Williams got 18 points against Chicago.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was the lead back. I'm going to agree with Dan, and I think that Williams, Perriman, I mean, Perriman's just been hotter and hotter every week now.
All right, so you got Perriman, Boyd, Allen Robinson, Travis Kelce, all at the same price. Kelce or Perriman?
See, I like the Tyler Boyd move, too. He's in one of my other lineups.
Well, let's look at Boyd's matchup. Slot receiver. Who's Cincinnati playing?
Cleveland.
Oh, very good matchup. Just going up against. Yeah. I think that Tyler Boyd's a better. I mean, that's a coin flip, but he has a better matchup. Not by much.
He's going to see 8 to 10 catches, probably 12 to 15 targets.
What do you think Perriman's going to see?
He's another one chasing a record. Perriman in that game, just
against Atlanta's shitty secondary.
Yeah, it's a shitty secondary, but so are Perriman's hands.
What did he do last week?
That's the other issue. 7 for 102.
Of 12 targets.
12 targets, and one was overthrown, and 2 of them were off his goddamn helmet.
He had another 20 points, 36 the week before. Tyler Boyd went on. He was the leading receiver last week with 36 points, 5 the week before. So,
yeah. Boyd
was the leader receiver, yes.
I can go Boyd. I'm good with that.
Okay.
I mean, we know Jameis is chasing a record. I mean, he needs, 2 interceptions to be 30-30?
Yeah. So, do you want Boyd or do you want Perriman?
I want Boyd.
Okay.
I like that move a little bit better.
All right, so Ryan Tannehill, Ezekiel Elliott, Kerryon Johnson, A.J. Brown, Steve Sims Jr., Tyler Higbee, Damian Williams, Tyler Boyd, Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And we are leaving no money on the table.
Save.
I'm playing that. Confirm entry. We are golden. Webby, it is that time for you to dole out the parlay of the week.
I think your free money this week, I'll give you the parlay in a minute. I think your free money this week is taking the Jets any way possible. +1 on that game. The Bills are sitting just about everybody because they have nothing to play for and no chance of moving anywhere, no chance of anything. At one point, Jets should beat the Bills by 1. Over and under on that game is 36.5. Donald could be posed to have a really good day, as we said earlier. And the money line at 102, getting your money back. Parlay this week. Again, not a week I like. There's no money to be made. Unsettled bet. I got a 5-team parlay at +683 this week. New Orleans Saints over the Carolina Panthers. Dallas Cowboys over the Redskins. Minnesota Vikings over the Bears. Kansas City Chiefs over the Chargers. And I'm throwing the Jets in there over the Bills.
Staying away from the Packer game, huh?
Don't like the game at all.
In a dome. No weather implications.
Don't like the game at all. Don't trust it. Just don't trust the game at all.
Playing for a first-round bye, you don't think they're going to come out firing?
Yeah, I think they do. I don't like the over and under at 43. I don't like the point spread at 12. And I don't really care for the money line at -590. It just kills the bet. It's like trying to take the Patriots this week. You can add it to your parlay, but they're -1,000. That's the problem with those two games, is the money lines on it. It kills your parlay, takes you down to almost nothing. Curious as to the Arizona Cardinals-Rams game, since there is nothing on that but a 5-point spread. No line, no over and under. That'll be a game time line coming out most likely, or late Saturday. I mean, you could take your Packers straight up over the Detroit Lions, but it's -590.
Yeah, you're not winning anything there.
Yeah.
Take everyone who got their free $6 bet and put it on the Packers and win $1. You've got to bet some serious money there to make money. But that's my parlay of the week. I'm hoping that one cashes out without a Pittsburgh disaster like last week.
That would have been nice, bro. That would have been real nice.
Yeah, it would have been. I had it all over the place. Every game except Pittsburgh. Thank you very much, Pittsburgh. But they have no quarterback. They don't know what they're doing.
Oh, but Ben has come out in the news reports and said he's going to come back bigger and stronger than ever.
Yeah, because he's been watching too much of the $6 Million Man.
Oh, and Antonio Brown may sign with the Saints.
Maybe.
And he's going to be placed on the exempt list as soon as he does that.
I don't see Sean Payton signing that kind of diva. But if it does happen, I don't agree with Ren. There is no reason for him to be put on an exempt list.
It's not just me. It's what's being reported out there.
I know that. I'm aware of it. But if they put him on the exempt list, he will sue the league. I don't think they have any right or rhyme or reason to put him on an exempt list.
All right, I just created our 3-man for Sunday. You guys should both have invites for that. And why don't you each give me for the fun of it, your picks of the week. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, defense. Go ahead, Dan. I'll let you start. Or tight end, sorry.
All right, well, I'm going to go quarterback, Goff. Wide receiver, I'm actually going to go Edelman if he plays, which I think he will. Defense, Packers. Running back, Elliott. Tight end, Higbee.
Webb?
Wow, I got to do all that in one shot. Robin Griffin III, QB.
I'm not writing this down this week. This is, we can go back and keep track of who you said.
Can't guard Mike, wide receiver. Defense. Patriots. What do I need, a tight end?
And a running back.
Need a running back, Kenyon Drake. I'm going to go back to the well, and no, I'm not. Geez, God, tight end. Jeez, you're killing me. Let me see. Hold on a second. Tight end. Let's go Miami, Gesicki.
All right. I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to take Tannehill. Running back, I'm going to take Elliott. Wide receiver, I will take Devontae Adams. Tight end, I will take Dallas Goedert. And defense, I will take the Jets over Buffalo. All right. Well, that wraps it up, gentlemen. Yes? Any parting words?
Good luck.
Yeah, win some money.
Welcome back to the playoffs, which I kind of pride myself in the smaller slate. So I think we'll have success for the, leading up to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is always tough with a one-game slate.
Yeah, well, we will definitely do a show for at least the first couple weeks of playoffs. Once you get to the Super Bowl, it's like a crapshoot. We may come do a wrap-up show and award our Hot Mess Express winners and our MVPs and all that. With that being said, Happy New Year, everyone. We will see you for Week 1 Wildcard Weekend. We'll be recording that next Friday. Good luck. Win cash. We're out of here.